Today, the boxing world finds itself divided, electrified, and maybe even confused. The announcement has been made, the posters are going up, and the hype is already spilling across social media. Jake Paul, the YouTuber who became a fighter, is stepping into the ring this November against Gervonta Tank Davis, one of the most feared pound-for-pound champions in the sport. It's a fight that almost nobody predicted, yet somehow feels inevitable in an age where spectacle and sport collide head-on. The date is November 14, 2025. The venue is the State Farm Arena in Atlanta, Georgia, and the platform, Netflix, a streaming giant that has already dipped its toes into the combat sports world with Paul's previous headline bout against Mike Tyson, a fight that drew in more than 60 million households. Now, they're back at it again, with a matchup that some call genius, others call a circus, but one that everyone will be talking about. At the heart of this is a simple question. Who exactly is Gervonta Tank Davis, and what does it mean for boxing that he is now tied to Jake Paul? To understand the weight of this announcement, you need to know Tank's story. Davis is 30 years old, born and raised in Baltimore, Maryland. His childhood was filled with hardship. He grew up in Sandtown, Winchester, one of the city's toughest neighborhoods. His parents struggled with addiction, and young Gervonta often found himself surrounded by chaos. School was not a refuge for him either. He dropped out of high school before eventually completing his GED. But in the middle of all that instability, one thing kept him grounded. Boxing. He walked into Upton Boxing Center as a boy, and under the guidance of Coach Calvin Ford, he began shaping his raw energy into skill. He had power even then, a ferocity that was rare, and a will that made him different from the other kids in the gym. By the time he was an amateur, he was a Golden Gloves champion. By the time he turned professional, the boxing world had already started whispering his name. Fast forward to today, and Davis holds a record that few can match. 30 wins, 0 defeats, 1 controversial draw that still has fans debating. 28 of those victories came by knockout. He is a 3-division world champion. He has held belts at super featherweight, super lightweight, and most notably, the WBA lightweight title that he currently defends. His resume is filled with names like Leo Santa Cruz, Mario Barrios, Rolando Romero, and Ryan Garcia, who he knocked out in the 7th round in one of the most memorable fights of 2023. His style is explosive. He is quick, precise, and devastating when he finds an opening. Fans call him a knockout artist. Critics call him the most dangerous fighter under 140 pounds. So why then is this champion agreeing to fight Jake Paul, a man who started his career not in boxing gyms but on YouTube? The answer lies in the journey of Jake Paul himself. Jake Paul, now 28 years old, first rose to fame through internet antics, viral videos, and eventually a stint on Disney Channel. He and his brother Logan were everywhere online, building a following in the tens of millions. But in 2018, Jake took his first steps into boxing. At first, it was dismissed as a stunt, a YouTuber fighting other YouTubers, but Jake Paul saw something else. He saw a way to reinvent himself, a way to step out of the shadow of internet drama and carve a name in the toughest sport on earth. He fought in Eston Gibb, Nate Robinson, Ben Askren, Tyron Woodley, Wes Anderson Silva, Tommy Fury, Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., and yes, even Mike Tyson. Some fights were ridiculed, some applauded, some highly controversial. But every single time Jake Paul made people watch, he made headlines. He turned his fights into cultural events. He wasn't just boxing, he was disrupting boxing. And in a sport desperate for mainstream attention, that disruption mattered now. Paul sits ranked among cruiserweights, weighing in around 190 to 200 pounds. He is taller, bigger, heavier, and physically stronger than most of his opponents. That size advantage is exactly why this fight with Davis raises so many eyebrows. Because Davis, remember, is a lightweight. His natural fighting weight is 135 pounds. That is a gap of more than 60 pounds. In traditional boxing, such a fight would be impossible. The commissions would never allow it. But in the world of exhibitions, in the world of Netflix specials, the rules bend. And here we are. The controversy is easy to understand. On one side, you have purists who say this is nothing but a circus act, a sideshow that tarnishes the reputation of boxing. They argue that Davis is neglecting his mandatory rematch with Lamont Roach Jr., that by choosing Jake Paul instead, he is dodging the very integrity of competition. Some say he could even face consequences with the WBA for putting entertainment ahead of obligation. On the other side, you have fans who say it doesn't matter. They argue that this fight, bizarre as it looks on paper, will bring in new viewers, new eyes, new money. That, in the modern world of sports, spectacle is king. Jake Paul knows this better than anyone. He leans into the controversy, mocking Davis as a tiny boy, framing the fight as a twisted David versus Goliath story. Only this time, David is the one with the championship belts, and Goliath is the brash YouTuber looking to upset him. It's marketing genius. It's also infuriating. Two traditionalists. So what can we actually expect on fight night? The truth is, nobody knows. The rules have not yet been made public. Will it be 6 rounds, 8 rounds, 10 rounds? Will they wear heavier gloves to protect Davis from the size disparity? Will there be a cat weight? Or will they simply let the two men walk in at their natural sizes, turning the whole thing into a clash of extremes? These details matter. They will decide whether this is a fight or simply a show. But make no mistake, the stakes are real. For Gervonta Davis, this is an opportunity to cross over into the mainstream like never before. His skill is unquestionable in the boxing world, but this fight could cement his name in households that have never watched a boxing match before. For Jake Paul, this is another chance to prove the critics wrong. If he can even survive in the ring with a man as lethal as Davis, he strengthens his claim that he belongs in the sport. He wins. By miracle or mistake, he shakes boxing to its core. The bigger picture, though, is about boxing itself. This fight is not just about Paul and Davis, it is about what boxing has become in 2025. Once a sport dominated by pay-per-view giants, it is now adapting to the streaming age. Netflix is betting big, and if this fight performs anywhere near as well as Paul versus Tyson, it could signal a permanent shift in how big fights are delivered. Two audiences. Boxing has always lived at the intersection of sport and entertainment. Think about Muhammad Ali fighting Antonio Inoki in a mixed rules match. Think about Floyd Mayweather fighting Conor McGregor. Think about Mike Tyson fighting Roy Jones Jr. Exhibition bouts have always blurred the lines between competition and show. The difference now is that social media accelerates everything. Every moment is clipped, shared, turned viral. Every knockout, every taunt, every stare down becomes content. And content drives culture. So is this fight good for boxing or bad for boxing? The answer may depend on what you want the sport to be. If you want purity, integrity, mandatory defenses, and legacy, then maybe this fight makes you cringe. If you want mass appeal, global headlines, and a flood of new fans, then maybe this fight is exactly what boxing needs. What's undeniable is that both men have something to prove. Gervonta Davis wants to show that no matter the size difference, his speed, his skill, and his power are too much for anyone even a cruiserweight like Jake Paul. Jake Paul wants to prove that he can hang with a true, active pound-for-pound, elite fighter, not just former champions past their prime or influencers dabbling in the sport. The question is, who will succeed? Will Davis's precision dismantle Paul in brutal fashion, showing the world once again that levels matter in boxing? Or will Paul's size and reach create enough problems to make Davis look vulnerable for the first time in his career? Or maybe the outcome won't matter at all. Maybe, in the end, the only thing that matters is that millions tuned in, talked about it, argued over it, and shared it across the world. That is the strange power of Jake Paul. Love him or hate him, he makes boxing impossible to ignore. And now, by stepping into the ring with Gervonta Davis, he's forcing the sport to face itself. Is this about tradition or about transformation? On November 14th, the answers begin. Two men from two completely different worlds will meet under the lights in Atlanta. One a champion forged in hardship, a product of Baltimore's toughest streets, now a symbol of excellence in the sport. The other a disruptor, a YouTuber who refused to stay in his lane, carving his way into a world that once laughed at him. Together, they will give us a fight that may not make sense on paper, but will make history regardless. And when the bell rings, whether it lasts 1 round, 6 rounds, or the full distance, the impact will be bigger than either man alone. Because this isn't just about Paul or Davis, it's about what boxing is and what boxing is becoming. So mark the date, November 14th. Jake Paul versus Gervonta Tank Davis, a fight that could be a circus, a farce, a spectacle, or the beginning of a new era. However you see it, one thing is certain, you'll be watching